This year's Africa Month is being celebrated under the theme the Year of Arts, Culture and Heritage. But as we wrap this very important month, I want to look at some of the challenges facing the media, some of the successes, some of the opportunities that are there for the media as well as we wrap up Africa Month. Kennedy Wandera, he's the chairperson of the Foreign Press Association Africa. He joins us now live. Kennedy, pleasure having you on the program. Thank you very much indeed for your time.
Thank you so much, Clay.
So I want to talk about something that we've been talking about for the last year, over a year now, the coronavirus pandemic. Has it challenged press freedom in Africa, would you say, Kennedy?
Absolutely. A number of our colleagues have been rendered jobless. A number of them have gone without pay for a long time. Others have to contend with pay cuts. And therefore, as much as it is affecting every front, journalists have not been spared in this.
And what sort of lessons do you think can the media learn from this health crisis?
There are a number of lessons that media can learn out of this. One is that now everything can go digital in this particular case. There are people who perhaps might have thought the technology will render people jobless. But for media, we are looking at this as an avenue and as an opportunity that has just come handy because now we have different ways of delivering news. It's not necessary that you have to go to work. You can work at home and deliver, just like someone who is in the newsroom. And now we don't require many journalists to be in the newsroom to discuss stories and so forth. We can discuss virtually, we can go on the internet and do this. But again, it has also given us an opportunity to depend much more on the technological advancements in terms of getting stories breaking in different areas on the continent. And that is very, very easy for our colleagues to report better.
Right. Look, let's just talk about this in general, including COVID-19, including other issues that the continent is facing. If you had to test the production of independent news and information on the continent, what are the outcomes?
Come again?
With regards to the independence of news and information that is coming from the continent, and here I'm not only talking about COVID-19, I'm talking about in general. What's the assessment like? What are people saying with regards to this?
Yeah, there have been a lot of issues on the information, especially on media on the continent. There have been reports that there are a number of media houses that are coming outside the continent, but they're reporting better on the continent. But when you look at the media on the continent, they've been seen as if they are trying to report more conservatively about the continent. And therefore, it is seen as if the West media or the media that is coming outside the continent, but now based on the continent, is reporting more independently and reporting much better. I don't know what might have precipitated this, but COVID-19 also gives us an opportunity now to evaluate on how we report about the continent, because like we've said many times before, there are a number of opportunities on the continent that can be reported better. We have booming tourism in Kigali, Rwanda, we have it in Uganda, we have it in Tanzania, in Kenya, even Zimbabwe. So Africa is not just about conflicts the way some people try to perceive it, but we have many, many opportunities on which we can report better. And the Foreign Press Association, being a professional network for journalists who are reporting on the continent, are looking at these opportunities as a way of also trying to tell better stories about the continent, because the stories coming from the continent should not just be stories of abject poverty. They shouldn't just be stories of disease. They shouldn't just be stories of bad governance as well as poor health systems.
That's such an important, interesting point that you make. And having said that, what is your level of concern with regards to self-censorship by journalists on the continent to avoid trouble, basically?
Yeah, yes, this is a critical area that helps us to critically and be objective, balanced, and fair in our reporting. But again, it comes with a responsibility as well. Actually, on the continent, we have other governments that think we are reporting in a biased way. But at the end of the day, it must boil down to a fact that a journalist has these credentials and has the necessity to report better and responsibly. For instance, we are seeing areas where there are conflicts. Yeah. So, in the journalist perspective, we have the tenets that really spur a journalist to report better.
Yeah.
Looking at the journalistic skills, looking at the journalistic values. But again, when it comes to our governments on the continent, they look at it differently. Yeah. For instance, we are talking about Zimbabwe, a journalist who has just been arrested just because he has aided an international media to report in that particular country. We are talking about Ethiopia in this particular case, where we are seeing our colleagues not given access to Tigray. And some of them are now being deported because of what the government believes is not reporting better. We are looking at other African countries where we're having our colleagues who are being jailed just because they are reporting on things that the government feel is not appealing to them. Therefore, the question of self-censorship is and should always be there. But as journalists report, they must as well report objectively in a balanced way and in a fair manner without being biased. And therefore, this should not be dictated by a government or authorities on the continent that report this way. And if this is not reported the way they want, then they look at it as if perhaps it's biased.
So, to what extent are journalists being targeted for their, targeted for major retaliation for their investigative reporting? And what is being done about it? What can be done about it?
I think our governments need to understand that journalists are informers to the people, to the public, and it's just a bridge between the government and the people. It is not a responsibility of a journalist to frame or to frame violence in any country. It is a duty of a journalist to tell the truth the way it is. And therefore, as much as we're talking about press freedom, we also understand as journalists that we have a duty to report accurately, report facts, report better. And therefore, we've seen a number of cases where our journalists, our colleagues have been clobbered, our colleagues have been arrested, some of them are deported just because they're not reporting what the government believes in. But look at it this way. When you deny a journalist an access to a certain area that is of public interest, or if you deny a journalist an access to information that is of public interest, definitely there's something you're hiding. Then you are emboldening this particular journalist to go miles and get this information on his or her own. But now what we see is a tendency by governments to use repressive laws to curtail movement, to curtail press freedom in these particular areas, especially when journalists now go miles ahead to report better. But we, at the Foreign Press Association, we are talking to different organizations, international organizations, even organizations on the continent. We're talking about the AU, we're talking about UNESCO, and all other media-related organizations like Committee to Protect Journalists. Yeah, this must stop. You cannot global journalists just because they are not reporting what you believe should be reported.
Look, democracy won't work if you don't have an informed citizenry. That's an important point, Kennedy. Look, there's so much I want to talk to you about, especially in terms of gender equality as being an integral part of freedom of expression. But no doubt we'll have you back in the program. We've got to get to a live event now. But Kennedy Wandera, he's the chairperson of the Foreign Press Association in Africa. Thank you very much indeed for your time.